Welcome to my home.
You mean my home?
Okay, it's neither of our homes.
But it is our podcast.
Glitter and gay.
Coming your way.
So thanks for tuning in
Today.
All right, Glenda, we're back. We are here to discuss something that I think every single person on social media, whether they have 2 followers or 2 zillion followers, experiences, goes through, thinks about. And I certainly have. Have you?
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Okay, we're talking about comparing ourselves to other people on social media, worrying about our engagement. Why does this person have so many more followers, so many more likes, so many more comments? What am I doing something wrong? All of these things that like the insecure side
Yeah.
of social media. It can be it definitely has triggered me.
Yeah.
Still does.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it, not because I've conquered it, but
Right.
because I need to have a conversation about it.
Well, and think about it. It doesn't matter like in what arena.
Mhm.
So in social media, you have like this persona, and whether you're comparing yourself based on being a real estate agent or being a man or being a woman or whatever it is. Oh, their clothes are nicer than mine. Their hair is better than mine. Their skin is better than mine. They're thinner than me. They're more athletic than me. The comparisons never ever end, and they're on so many different levels.
Totally.
And I think that as a real estate agent, number one, we're very cognizant of comparison, because what's the difference in a real estate agent?
Your X factor, whatever you think that is.
Exactly. But I mean, it's not like basketball. It's not like there's a huge difference between LeBron James and Trae Young. Like, that's very obvious.
Girl, I don't know who either of those people are.
Okay, go with me on that.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, like, what analogy would I use that you would relate to?
So I actually was feeling on board because I do know who LeBron James is. The other person are they
Trae Young has been in the league 3 years.
Oh, so he's still a basketball player.
He's basketball.
I thought you were
basketball.
I thought you were saying it was like comparing a basketball player to a chef, maybe. Like just like not even in the same arena.
No. They're in the same arena, but the difference in them is obvious. Whereas in real estate, what's the difference between me and you? Like the consumer looks at us and says, okay, there's Realtor T and there's Realtor G. Either one of them can help me buy or sell a house.
Right.
And so that's where I think that the comparison in our head, it's only in our head. And unless you can articulate it to the consumer, they're looking at you as the same.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It makes me one of the first times I started to have an awareness of, because I always wondered, especially, I'll talk about specifically like the New York City gay community. And I lovingly say the Insta-gays. And there would be just random gay men who weren't famous, like, weren't on anything, weren't models, were just like another person in the community, but for some reason had 200,000 followers. And I would like, look at that. I was like, you seem lovely. Like, I'm not like insulting you, but I'm like, how did 200,000 people decide I'm going to follow him?
Right.
And it used to really get in my head. And then the thing that really started to shock me is I would see, it specifically, I started to notice it around models. So there's gazillions of models,
Right.
Lots of beautiful people.
Right.
A very small fraction of models have mega success, right?
Right.
Like, we're talking like the
Cindy Crawford,
the household
Giselle.
names, right? And, so you go on and you look at those people who are really models, are often paid for their influence, right?
Right.
Like they know how to represent a brand. They know how to make it look like, be that thing that you want it to be. And so their social media presence makes total sense to me.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? I'm like, your career is influencing, making something look like something I want.
Right.
And they do it so well. I love like a beautiful person wearing something. I'm like, I want to be that.
Yeah.
So then like a brand new model and I follow some modeling agents, and they would like post about like just signed so and so. I would like Google them. They'd been in a few campaigns, but then I'd find their social media and they'd have like 17 million followers on social media. And I'd be like, no fucking way. I'm like,
Right.
I don't buy it.
Right.
And then I would go down. So this is the psychopath in me. I would go down a rabbit hole and
No, you didn't.
I would try to look up I'm like, at what was the catalyst for 17 million people to follow this
Right.
person? And because I just needed to know, I was like, who is I was like 17 million. I was like, you have more followers than at the time. I used to compare everybody to Kelly Clarkson because she didn't have the biggest Instagram, but she was a household name. And I was like, no fucking way do more people follow you than the best singer on I love Kelly Clarkson. I was like, no way do more people follow you than the best singer on the planet. Like, I mean, just nobody. I was like, I don't believe it. Everybody knows who Kelly Clarkson is, and at the time she had like 4 million followers. I don't know how many she has now, but I was like, I don't buy the story, and I would get so furious. And I think we talk about this in coaching a lot. Like your brain gets engraved to start looking for this bullshit, and I would find myself surfing social media, not trying to like look for content that I enjoy, but I'm like, who's buying shit?
Yeah.
I'm like, who bought their
Yeah.
followers? And then I would like, how much does it cost to have 17 million followers? I'm like, what's that credit card bill? Like, I gotta know. Because you can buy comments,
Yeah.
you can buy likes, you
Yeah.
can buy followers, you
Yeah.
can buy views. And then I started to realize we had a stigma going on when I realized you can actually buy story views. And they're cheap. So you can buy like 10,000 story views for like $5. And that's when I knew I was like, oh, this is an actual disease.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I'm the only person who can see my story views, right? Unless I'm like turning around, I'm like, look at my story views, but like,
Right.
it's not public information. I'm like, am I really going to do I need to pay $5 so I can have however many thousands more story views that only I'm going to know about anyway? It doesn't change my influence to the world, but it's because of like this chemical reaction we have in our brain that like I succeeded and it only cost me $10. But it's like you forget where the engagement came from, where the following came from. So I'm worried about the time limit on this episode because this is like something that I've done some real work around because now I'm like on the other side of it. But have you had a similar experience? Have you noticed people's engagements and followings that don't make sense to you?
Well, so typically I don't pay any attention to what you have or what I have.
Oh God, so good for you.
I don't really. But
Was there a time in your life when you did? Will I get better by the time I'm 55?
I used to always be guilty of comparing myself.
Right.
Always. And at some point in my life, I was like, you're never, ever not going to be bow-legged. It's just not ever going to happen for you, Glenda. So however cute she looks when she walks, you're not ever going to walk like that. You need to give up that fight. You're not ever going to be a size 2. You need to just, like, how much energy are you exerting that could be spent loving your family, building your business, like appreciating that you can walk, appreciating that you're healthy, appreciating that you had an amazing meal last night and you don't have to worry about being a size 2. So for me, that trigger hit me when I became more self-aware and maybe just more comfortable with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong. My head still spins around. Snot still flies out of my nose. There's this guy in my 3-mile zone and complete and total asshole. I mean, the guy is a dick.
A 3-mile zone?
TMZ, 3-mile zone, like within 3 miles of my space.
Okay.
Yeah, I call it.
Is that what TMZ stands for?
Yeah, 3 miles.
Wow.
You learn something new every day from the old girl.
TMZ stands for 3-mile zone.
Yeah, the 3-mile zone of LA.
I thought it meant Tyler makes zillions.
I wish.
Yeah, me too.
I wish. But anyway, so this guy in my 3-mile zone, he posts a reel. The guy's got, I don't know, 2,000 followers, 2,500 followers. and he has like 2,800 views on this reel, and he's got like 1,800 likes. And I'm like, bullshit. So I send it to Denver. Denver is like the freaking FBI. The guy could recon like nobody's business. He is your worst ex-stalker girlfriend in the world. And so I send it to him, and within 5 minutes, he goes, "They're Russian bots." I'm like,
Mhm.
"How do you know that?" He's like, "Look at them. They're all user 1, 2, 3, 8, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11." And I'm like, "Get the fuck out. Are you serious?" He's like, "Absolutely." So then, and he goes, and they were cheap bots because they have no followers and they're following no one. And 80% of everybody who's liked it is that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that guy, it just, validated that he was a dick. But anyway.
So I do very similar things. I feel like I live in Denver's world, and I've kind of let go of it. So there was a comparison, there was a jealousy thing, especially when I was still drinking,
Yeah.
and that was like how my brain worked.
Yeah, I don't have
You
that.
know, I think sobriety has taught me a lot of like,
Oh.
girl, like the fact that you care about that is the problem,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so like that's like work that I've had to do along the way. I think one of the reasons I still find myself getting angry about it is, one of my favorite quotes is, we don't see people as they are, we see them as we are.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I see people trying to live a large life, a life larger than what they currently have instead of being excited about what they have, which is something I've struggled with. Right. And when I see somebody else doing it, it's like it pisses me off
Right.
because it's the thing I don't like about me.
Right.
Right. It's the thing that I'm like, I need to fix that. Like I gotta work on that, right? And the other side of it is that, especially like the younger generation growing up in this, I think it takes people a while to not compare yourself to other people.
Yeah.
I think it's almost kind of like a human instinct, and I don't know
Right.
if that's because of society or just innate human nature, but it does feel to me like it's something that at some point in your upbringing and in your coming of age that you're going to experience. And because social media is a huge part of the youth right now, I actually think a lot about like kids and teenagers these days and like how
Yeah.
it's affecting them and like them feeling like, I know I dealt with mega less than feelings
Right.
without having social media.
I know. And now it's just like so exaggerated because brands are making zillions of dollars based on your insecurity that I've got better shoes than you do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that Chloe has better clothes or Kylie has better makeup. I mean, they're making zillions of dollars because you need to prove your worth through goods.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you get off of the comparison train, the crazy train of comparison, when you start to understand the value and the worth of your time and energy and the deployment of that time and energy. Because think about what could you have done with Stamatis in the time that you went down the rabbit hole of comparison.
Oh my God.
I
Could
mean,
have had great sex.
great sex, a walk in the park, an ice cream, time
Laughed.
with the dogs. That really when I started to value my time and myself, the trigger of comparison really stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm in suburbia. And there's always the prettier lady, the nicer car girl, the better hair. There's always that woman. Oh, the better tennis player. She looks so much better in her tennis skirt. That kind of stuff. But now I don't even notice it.
Right.
I don't even notice it. The thing I struggle with the most is that I'm so bow-legged. And I compare every person that walks, every single person that walks, I compare to me. That's the only thing I can't get rid of.
Can I tell you what I'm sitting here thinking? Because this is the first time you've mentioned being bow-legged.
Oh my God, it
I've
makes me
never
crazy.
noticed it. I've literally never noticed it. And then the other thing that I thought about is that every single time I ask you to walk somewhere, you're like, "Let's take the car." And then I'm like, I guess I just haven't seen you take a long walk. But
I
I've never
just
noticed it. It's
just
so weird the things we notice about ourselves that
yeah,
nobody else will
and
see.
it makes me so crazy that I hate to be late because I don't ever want to walk in and everybody turn around and look at me.
Mm.
So I'm always early. I always want to be early and seated, and then that way the first impression of me walking in is not that.
It's that glamorous woman sitting there with stars on and looking
Right.
great.
Exactly.
It reminds me of what I was telling you earlier about like my big anxiety when I was overweight was getting on an airplane
Yeah.
and feeling like when I was walking down that center aisle that
Yeah.
everybody was staring at me thinking, please, dear God, he's not going to sit next to
Right.
me, right? He's
Right.
not going to sit here. When most people are probably just staring at their phones, posting a Instagram story about to
Yeah.
be on vacation. And then I'm like, they just made a post about sitting next to fat me. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you just think everything's about yourself.
You do. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
The tricks that your mind plays on you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I always think like, it's just so strange to me.
So my brother is maybe one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. He just loves consuming information. He listens to tons of podcasts. He reads tons of books. He loves learning. It's his passion, and he knows more things about everything to a point where it's actually really frustrating because the fights that we have are him being like condescending because he's just like, I know this and you don't. And I'm like, no, I happen to know something about this one and we're going to talk about it. And then I look it up later. I'm like, God damn it, he was right. But one of his favorite things to learn about is like the universe, the planets, the stars. And I'll never forget that he loves camping and we went camping and he was staring and he loves staring up at the Milky Way at night when there's no light pollution and you can just see the endless stars. And he was like talking about how big the universe is. And he was like, you'll never understand. He was like, it goes on. He was like, it's so big. He was like, that planet Earth is by comparison to the size of the universe, he's like, it's a speck. He's like, it is a speck in the universe. He's like, we think about the solar system and that there's like these 9 big balls of planets. And he was like, each of them by comparison is like the size of a piece of sand. And he's like, so what does that say about us? And he was like, because there's billions of us. He's like, we are a teeny tiny fraction of a speck on a speck flying throughout universe. And he was like, so it's your life. He's like, live it. He's like, in the grand scheme of thing, he was like, do something important, do something you're passionate about. He's like, but never forget you are just a speck on a speck. and I remember I thought about that for so long because, I put so much weight on everything and I'm like, all of these other people, and I'm like, we're all just specks on a speck. You know what I mean? Like, and it's allowed me, because sometimes I don't think that's a healthy thing. Like, I remember it came up again whenever he was going on some job interviews, and one of them wasn't working out the way he thought it was going to, and I could tell he was disappointed. And I was like trying to talk to him about it, and he's like, none of it really matters. He's like, it's not that important. And I was like, but it's okay to be like passionate about the job you want, Zach. I was like, it's okay to have wanted that position and to feel disappointment that it didn't work out. I was like, it doesn't have to be a big deal in the scheme of the universe, but it can be a big deal to you. And I think it's okay to have that passion. So I disagree with him there. But when I'm comparing myself to some stranger on social media, that's the line that gets me out of it. I'm like, we are both just smaller than a piece of sand on a piece of sand flying through the sky. Like, that's really all it is in the grand scheme of things. And it's also inspiring to me because I'm like, take the chance, take the risk.
Right.
Like, you are just a speck in this world, so that speck better sparkle,
That's right.
and sparkle in your own unique way. But there's
Right.
so much abundance. Like, going back into our last episode when we were talking about TikTok, like, I love the idea that everybody gets a chance.
Yeah.
Like, everybody can shine. I think where it becomes harder is like, it's because there's so much information available now, there's so much TV available now. The, you know, there's Netflix, there's Hulu, there's HBO Max, there's all these streaming services, there's Amazon, and then you still have all of the TV. Nobody's really watching TV anymore.
Right.
And so it's like being famous is almost not a thing the way I look at it now, because there's so many people on Instagram who have hundreds of thousands of
Right.
followers and millions of followers. There's so many different platforms to watch TV on. Having a hit is nearly impossible. I mean, there are so many TV shows that people talk about that I've just never heard of. There's so many times that like I'm sitting down at a restaurant out here and somebody's like, "Oh, look who's over at that table. It's so and so from," and I'm like, I have no idea who that is, and I
No
have
clue.
never heard of that TV show.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that it's not special, but it just reminds me, I'm like, there's such an abundance. There's so much
Yeah.
opportunity.
So much opportunity.
Like you have to, I think where it becomes creative, like, you know, we've said while we enjoy doing this, it's helped us grow our business, and our business is how we pay our bills,
Right.
right? Like, and you were giving me some great ideas earlier on how to like monetize it. But, you know, this whole idea of how somebody else is doing their thing and how we're doing our thing, like, the only thing that you should be doing when you're comparing yourself to somebody is being their cheerleader.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Just be the wind on someone's back. I stole
Yeah.
that from Modern Family. They say it in Spanish though.
Well, you know, there's this guy, his name was Cliff Levingston. He was a
Hmm.
player for the Hawks. Not that you know him. He
I
was a
love
player.
Cliff.
Shut up. You
Big,
have no
he's
idea who
got
Cliff
he's
Levingston
he's
is.
got those big beefy arms,
So Cliff,
blue eyes.
not
No,
exactly.
okay.
So
I had a
Cliff,
chance.
he came off of the bench
Okay.
for the Hawks back in the 90s. And everybody remembers him because he was the biggest cheerleader for every single player. It didn't matter who it was, he was just such an encourager. And if you asked me, like, okay, Glenda, so like, what were his stats? What position did he play? Like, I have no idea. I just know that when he was on the court, he was making everybody else better. He
Hmm.
never compared himself, and he never ever they did an interview with him, and they asked him, like, you know, how do you feel about coming off the bench? You know, you were a starter for a little while and now you're coming off the bench. And he's like, I'm just happy to be on the court. Whether I'm on the court on the chair or I'm on the court with the ball, I'm just happy to be on the court. And I just thought to myself, never will forget him saying that. And I just thought, what an amazing mindset.
Hmm.
Like, can we just bottle that and sell it? Like we could quit our jobs if we could bottle and sell contentment.
Yeah. And similar story with Bob Saget when he died, and every comedian with a platform shared stories about how Bob Saget checked in on them routinely, reached out to them, told them how much he enjoyed their work,
Yeah.
told them that if they ever just needed somebody to talk to, that they could always call him. And I was like, gosh, I was like, that's how you're an icon.
Yeah.
Like I look at somebody like you, right? Like you're such an established real estate agent, and more than anybody, I still don't know how you do it. You make yourself available to, you respond to comments, you respond to messages, you make time for phone calls, you're a yes person, you make it, and like, and it's just like those things are so generous. Like I I try to say yes to a lot of things. I try to respond to what I can, but I can't keep up and do my business, and like somehow you do it, right? And there's just some people who they give so much, and it's just like those, that's how you live a good life. I feel like
Yeah.
that's how, like in Tom Ferry's world, he says the best way to get everything you want out of your life is to help as many people get exactly what they want out of their lives, right? And if you can apply that to other people's social media, other people who are like pushing products and, you know, pushing ads and trying to grow their following and creating content, it's so easy to like criticize it and roll your eyes and compare. Or, you know, what if your gut reaction was to share it?
Yeah.
to help them to post it. You see somebody working hard, taking some risk, putting themselves out there instead of being like, oh, can you believe that I got their social media is just this and that. It's like, share it, help them build their platform. They're going
Yeah.
to practice, even if it's like not that great right now, they're going to practice, they're going to get better.
Yeah.
And there's like some people who might have real potential who are getting like not great feedback in the beginning and you're shutting them down and you didn't know what kind of star they were going to be,
Right.
so like lift everybody up.
Yeah.
And then if that person becomes big and they come back and they get you, you know what I mean? Like they'll take you with them.
Well, yeah, and nobody, most people, never tell me no.
Right.
Like anything I ask for, anything I need, everybody's always willing to help me in any way.
Mm.
And I feel like that's just because I always I'm bringing you with me. We're going together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Like it doesn't matter. Come on, let's go. And I want to take everybody with me. We were talking last night at the table at dinner. Like I have an infinite capacity to love. I love every single person I meet. I look for the best in every single person. I want to build you up. I'm looking at you. The only thing I'm thinking about when I'm talking to you is you. And my mom always said to me, she goes, when you're talking to somebody, you look at them. You let them know by the way that you're looking at them that they're special to you. And she said, if you do that, you'll always be special to somebody.
Mm.
So I always want people to know that they're special to me, that they mean something to me, that the time that they've taken to engage with me, that I actually looked into their eyes. I actually thought about them. I actually looked at the color of their eyes and their eyelashes and everything about them. And the next time I see them, I'll recognize them. That's why I always introduce myself. I always ask someone's name because I want them to know that in that very moment that they're special to me.
I'm going to finish on this pineapple moment of saying every single time I'm at dinner with Glenda, and we've been out to a lot of meals in the past, we've been out to several meals in this trip, and the waiter comes over and they're like, can I take your drink order? And she goes, I'm sorry, what's your name? And they say their name and she goes, well, I'm Glenda. It's nice to meet you. And you can also, it's so uncommon that you can almost feel them being like, thank you. And you can hear they appreciate it, but it's also, they're just like unexpected.
Right.
And she's like, anyway, I'll have a glass of soda water and a wine glass.
So let me ask you a question. When you talk and you're talking like you're me, you put on this really strong Southern accent. Do you think I have an accent?
Pineapple. Okay. We're going to play a voicemail now.
Hi. The last few years, I've been feeling a lot of internal discomfort, and I have made a lot of changes. I've moved. I've become closer to family. I've created new relationships. I've gotten rid of ones that don't work, and I'm still feeling it. I'm still feeling like something isn't quite right, and I'm seriously considering packing up my life and my dogs and spending a year just driving around the country. And I'm wondering if you think that that is something that could potentially help. Looking forward to hearing what you think.
Do you know who that is?
I think I do.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I know who that is, actually. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I have to say, if I was unencumbered and I had the ability to like just leave, I would.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, could you imagine like test driving anywhere and everywhere for a year and just being able to like just go? Okay, yeah. Nope. Nowhere Montana is not gonna work for me. I was here a couple days. I don't really like it. I think I'm gonna go to somewhere New Mexico. I mean, I think that if you have the ability to do that, think about what an amazing like self-discovery year you would have.
Mm-hmm.
You would learn so much about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like there are a lot of us, and I actually put myself in this category a little bit of like, am I living exactly how I want to live right now? Like, am I getting exactly out of my life what I want to get out of my life? And I have a lot of friends who are just so afraid of making a change,
Oh.
so afraid of going and finding a new community, a new place to live, a new job, a new social circle, whatever it may be. And, and that makes me sad, because going back to what I was saying earlier, we're a speck on a speck. This is your one trip, and you need to squeeze all the joy out of it because the world is full of joy. The world is full of possibilities, full of experiences. And, you have to have a career. Like, that's your contribution to the world to be able to get back the life that you want to live. But outside of that, I think we all forget that we're trying to live like our best life possible. My only concern with what they said in the voicemail is this idea of packing up and just traveling around in a car. And it just sounds a little isolated to me. And sometimes in isolation, there's great things, but eventually you're going to have to settle down. And I do think it's important to surround yourself with community, surround yourself with love, surround yourself with people who support you and cheer you on, that you can have nights to yourself or you can have nights with people who are great. You can go to a party or you can go to a movie with one person. I think you need that. And I think it's important. And I think some people think they don't need it. I tend to disagree with that. It's okay to be, I'm definitely a little bit of a homebody, but you need people and people need you, like I think, and so I do worry, like if your issue is that like you've deepened relationships, you've let go of relationships, you've moved and it hasn't worked. There's that saying, everything's okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. And, but that means you're just on the journey, right? You're on the life journey and you've got to go find that spot and that space that just fills you up. And it doesn't have to be forever. I don't think anything's permanent. I think some people really like the idea of permanence, like staying in your marriage forever, staying in a community forever. But I do worry a little bit about being by yourself with your dogs in a van and just bouncing around for a year. I don't know if that's going to be the medicine that fixes the internal discomfort. I think you've got to give a few places a chance. I think go explore some new places, go meet some new people. And if it doesn't feel right, go do it again.
Right.
But living in a van by yourself, I don't think it's going to do the trick.
Transformation doesn't happen in isolation.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
No. You isolating yourself, to me, is the first step to the spiral down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to mention, if that is who I think it is, it's somebody who has so much to offer.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think everybody has so much to offer, but I happen to know for a fact this person has so much to offer to a community. And I think it just needs to find the right place to plug in.
Right. The right place to plug in. Because if you plug the lamp in to the outlet that doesn't work, it doesn't mean the light doesn't work. It means the outlet doesn't work.
Okay, then. I think that's a great way to end.
I'm so good at this, aren't I?
You are.
That's all for now.
That's all for now. You better do what?
Oh, like, subscribe, rate, and review. Is that right?
And share and tell your mama.
That's right. Think about it. If every single person that listens to this podcast, watches this podcast, if every single person just shares it with one person, it'd be like that Breck commercial. Are you too young to remember the Breck commercial?
I don't even know what Breck is.
It was a shampoo.
No.
And it was like, she told two people, she told two people, she told two people. And the commercial started with 2 people, and then 4, and then 8, and then 16. And so that's the thing, is like, if you tell 2 people and you tell 2 people and you tell 2 people, think about the million people that will have that will listen to the podcast in 1 second.
Okay, well, hold on. This is turning into the longest sign off ever. But one of my favorite Broadway shows is a show called Title of Show that only ran for a little bit. But the main song in it was "I'd rather be 9 people's favorite thing than 100 people's 9th favorite thing," and then but it goes into that because they're like, those 9 people would tell 9 people, and then we'd have 18 people loving our show,
Right.
and then those 18 people would tell 18 people, and we'd have 525,600 people loving our show.
Oh, that's the guy from Law and Order that sings that.
It's not. All right, goodbye.